Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie, and we have a great show for you today. The first topic we'll be talking about is Dylan Cease and the rumors that he might be traded out of the South Side and going to a different team not named the Chicago White Sox. The second segment we're going to have today is an update on Gerrit Cole and his injury with the Yankees. The third one is going to be about free agents and some rumors about them and some updates as well, where they might go. And finally, just some news around the league, some stories I want to talk about that have been happening around it. Before we do that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. Really does help the show, really does mean a lot, helps everyone here, so thank you so much for that. And let's get into our show today. So the first topic we'll be talking about today is what I mentioned before, and that is about Dylan Cease and the Chicago White Sox and the trade rumors that have consistently been persistent, especially over the past 24 hours. So basically what's been going on with Dylan Cease is pretty simple. He's been in trade rumors all offseason for good reason. He's a very good player. The White Sox are not a very good team. He only has 2 years left in his contract. So it makes natural sense that, that he is in trade rumors and that the White Sox might trade him. We thought he was going to get traded this offseason pretty earlier with all the rumors persisting, but he's still on the team, and we've kind of thought over the past few weeks or so that, okay, he's going to stay in Chicago now. They're really not getting the offers they want, so they're going to wait till the deadline when a team probably gets desperate, and they'll do it then. But over the past really just hours or so, that has kind of changed, and I think we're seeing a big change in the chances that Dylan Cease does get dealt. And right now, I would say they're fairly high that he gets dealt pretty soon. It first started with a little report from Evan Grant, who is a Texas Rangers reporter, one of the most reliable guys in Texas, that the White Sox and Rangers had been talking about Dylan Cease to the Rangers, and that it was definitely a possibility. Now, this is nothing new. Again, we've heard Dylan Cease trade rumors the entire offseason, so it wasn't anything new. It was kind of a little, a little bit of an eyebrow up for me, a little bit of a moment of that, okay, there's talking about him again. I thought this was kind of over for the offseason, that we realized he wouldn't be traded anywhere. But they kept talking about him still, so it was kind of still there, and that he still could potentially get traded. So that was really interesting. And then Ken Rosenthal drops a report last night that talks about, in the first sentence of it, that he thought on Tuesday morning that the Rangers and White Sox had agreed in a trade for Dylan Cease, or that it was close. And that was like, okay, this is starting to get serious here, and I think we have to talk about Dylan Cease being a trade candidate again. So after that, we've kind of heard a lot of different reports about Dylan Cease, and the one thing I've kind of realized is that he's probably going to get traded fairly soon. This could just be, in baseball terms, a swing and a miss from me, and that I'm just reading too into this, and teams are just trying to get rumors going for the start of the season because they still need help. But the fact that we're hearing a good amount of rumors, especially from a guy like Ken Rosenthal, who is one of the more reliable guys in the game, as we know, one of the veterans in this game. The fact that we're hearing him talking about it, it's kind of eye-opening for me, and I do think as of right now, Dylan Cease is likely to be traded before opening day. That's not something I would have thought about, but it's with that. We've also heard two other teams that I'm going to mention that have had a recent trade talks for Dylan Cease. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that and some fits, I think, for Dylan Cease as well. Fits not only that make sense on paper, but especially fits we've heard. So, I definitely want to talk about that. So, first one we're going to talk about is, of course, the New York Yankees. They've been one of the most consistently rumored teams with the White Sox about Dylan Cease, really for the entire offseason, and it makes a lot of sense, really. The first thing is the Yankees have needed another starting pitcher. Obviously, they signed Marcus Stroman to try to fill in that hole in that rotation, but there are still some question marks now, especially with the Gerrit Cole injury, which we'll be having a full segment dedicated to right after this, so we're not going to go deep into that, but obviously about the Gerrit Cole injury, and that probably put them more into the pitching market than they were before. Other than Cole, you had a lot of question marks. You had Rodon, who was facing a lot of injury risk always and wasn't good last year. Stroman, kind of the same thing. Nestor Cortez, injury risk. And you had Clayton Beater, Will Warren, guys like that who are going to play a big role in the depth, but are rookies and haven't really had a full starting experience with the Yankees or any MLB team. Then you had Luke Weaver, who's kind of just a six man, kind of swing man. So you had a lot of risks there and a lot of question marks in that rotation. And getting a guy like Cease would have helped that a lot. Now, what we've heard is that the White Sox were set on getting Spencer Jones in the trade, and that's the guy they really wanted. And without that, there would be no deal. Now, personally, I don't think that's ever going to happen, and that's why I don't think the Yankees end up trading for Dylan Cease or ended up trading, because we don't know if the White Sox are still active, but we've heard about them all offseason. So I've talked about it before, but I don't think Spencer Jones is going to be traded. I wouldn't trade Spencer Jones for Dylan Cease. I think he's an absolute stud, a guy who's going to be part of that Yankees lineup for years and years to come. You may even have to rely more if, the worst case scenario happens next year where Juan Soto leaves. So I think it makes a lot of sense for that. And as much as Dylan Cease would be a really nice add, he's not a necessity. You still have 5 good starting pitchers, even though there's some risks there, yes, but Cease isn't a necessity like it may be for some of the other teams I'm going to mention here. So I don't think Cease goes to the Yankees, but they have been mentioned a lot. And I don't really think, Andy Martino even mentioned himself that teams believe there's much better offers on the table for Cease than the Yankees have. So I wouldn't look at Cease to the Yankees as pretty likely. Could the Yankees get desperate after the Cole news comes back worse than they thought and go all out for him and offer someone huge? That's possible, yes. But as of right now, I don't think it's fairly likely. I don't think he gets traded to the Yankees. And that's just the first team I'm going to mention here. The next team is the team I was talking about before in the segment, which is the Texas Rangers. Now, the Texas Rangers make so much sense here. I mean, so much sense. Obviously, they're the reigning world champions, so they're obviously in their window of winning. I mean, you can argue they've already won it, so there's not much else to do, but I'm sure they want to go for a repeat. I'm sure they want to keep competing, as this was supposed to be their first year of the window, and they already won. So, congrats to them. I know a lot of teams who would love to be in their place right now. Probably most, considering they won the World Series. But there are some problems in this upcoming year. And mainly it is the pitching. Jordan Montgomery's not coming back. Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, both out with injury. You have a lot of other injury risk guys there as well, like Nathan Eovaldi, who's always injury risk. Same with Andrew Heaney. Dane Dunning as well has dealt with some stuff. So the Rangers have needed a lot of help in that rotation, and that's one of the reasons right now that I don't have them in the playoff picture. I think they're on the brink of it, but I just think their pitching isn't good enough to make them a playoff team right now. But if they get Dylan Cease, I'll probably retract that statement. I mean, this just makes so much sense on paper. The Rangers have a great farm system that they can easily use to get a guy like Dylan Cease, a star in that nature, to fortify that rotation. I mean, deGrom and Scherzer, when they come back, if they pitch to their full abilities, which I think is unlikely because they're older and they just got hurt, but if they do, you add that with Cease, that's one of the best rotations in baseball, if not the best. I think Cease to the Rangers makes a lot of sense. I haven't really mentioned it, but it's always been in the back of my mind that he has made a lot of sense to them, even when they haven't been mentioned, just because of a baseball fit, because of the pitching injury, because of the pitching woes they're dealing right now. So, yeah, I think that can make a ton of sense. Right now, apparently the offer that the White Sox want is Brock Porter, Jack Leiter, and Ezekiel Turan, which, I mean, if that's all the Rangers have to give up, you do that in a second. Like, Brock Porter, great prospect. Ezekiel Turan, really good MLB player. Jack Leiter, former number 2 overall pick, yes, but Dylan Cease would help you so much. I mean, you could win the AL West with Dylan Cease. He's such a perfect fit for that team. I mean, if you extend him as well, that's even better. Brock Porter is a great prospect, but, I mean, I think Brock Porter, what you want from him is to become a really good starting pitcher and for him to contribute in the next year or two. You're getting that with Cease already, and you're giving up Duran, who's a nice player, started for you for a lot in last year, yes, but he's so replaceable. Jack Leiter has not done well to start off his career and is kind of a buy low candidate at this point. So if that is really what they want, if I'm the Rangers, I'm doing that in an absolute second. I mean, other than that, you have a lot of other prospects you could mention here as well. I mean, the first one that comes to mind, of course, is going to be their young shortstop prospect, Sebastian Walcott. I think he's in the range of who they'd be willing to give up. I think Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford are both untouchable, and for good reason. Justin Fausk as well, even Kumar Rocker if they want to buy low on him. But I would think it takes Walcott and Porter, and then probably someone else if I had to guess what a final trade would be for here. And I think Texas right now is looking real nice in these cease negotiations, and I would look at them as one of the favorites here. And we'll get to where I think he does end up after. But yeah, Rangers and Cease make a lot of sense, and that's something I definitely look out for in the upcoming days. Another team that has been mentioned with Cease in the last few hours or so, and that is the San Diego Padres. They were mentioned in the article Rosenthal said as well. John Morosi said this morning that he's heard the Padres have had recent talks for Cease, and this makes a ton of sense. I mean, they need a lot of pitching help, especially with Blake Snell leaving. They got a lot of depth in the Juan Soto trade, but no real guys who are going to be huge difference makers. Maybe a Drew Thorpe, but he's not going to be up for a little bit. I mean, Johnny Brito, Brandy Vasquez, the other guy, Michael King, they're all really good. They're all, Michael King's really good, but he still has some question marks considering this will be his first full year as a starter. After that, I mean, you have Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez, who are good players, but are they really huge difference makers? I don't think so. Getting a guy like Cease would put him at the top of your rotation for years to come, as you would probably extend him. You get him, Joe Musgrove, you Darvish. That's a great top three. You hope the pitching problems that you've had the past few years, and especially this year, you try and help that core you have there with Machado, with Tatis, Ha-Sung Kim, who might be his last year in San Diego, Jackson Merrill coming up as well. So I think the Padres make a lot of sense here. They always have a ton of prospect depth. That's one thing A.J. Preller is really good at. We know he's had his eyes on him in the past as well, and A.J. Preller, to his credit, if he has eyes on a player, he'll do whatever he can to get him. So I think the Padres make a lot of sense here in the Dylan Cease negotiations if he would be likely to get traded. So yeah, definitely looking out for the Padres here. There are some untouchable guys, most likely probably a guy like Ethan Salas, who I would say Padres are looking for to be the next superstar, considering he's 16, 17, and getting hits in spring training. So I wouldn't say he's likely to be traded, and I would say he's definitely untouchable, but there's a lot of other prospects in that Padres organization, even after making so many trades over the past few years, that could definitely work for the White Sox. So I definitely look at them as a fit with the Rangers and with the Yankees. Another team I wanted to mention here that's been mentioned in the past a little bit is the Cincinnati Reds. I just think this makes a lot of sense. They need an ace. I think this would help their rotation so much, help them kind of pull themselves away from everyone on the NL Central. Personally, I still think they are the favorites in that division, but it's pretty close. You have the Cubs there who re-signed Bellinger, still have a lot of good players, of course. You have the Brewers who could still do something if their young hitters all come together. The Cardinals, if their pitching's even league average, I think they could be an amazing team. Pirates, even if their young players put it all together. So there's a lot of good teams in the NL Central, but no one has really run away with that division right now. And I think the Reds potentially making a big splash late in the offseason like this, and Dylan Cease would make them a great team. I do think it's somewhat unlikely because their rotation is kind of filled out. You have Frankie Montas, who's their opening day starter, Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft, Nick Martinez, all good starters. But so I don't know if there's a huge fit for Cease and if they want to splurge on him because he's not necessarily a huge need. But I think he would help the top of that rotation so much that I think they are a fit here. And they have been mentioned in the past, so I do want to mention them. But I do think they are somewhat unlikely. And inevitably, I think Cease does end up getting traded before the season starts at this point. I think the rumors have been fairly obvious with that. Also, in the article, Rosenthal mentioned that the White Sox already have a replacement lined up for Cease, Michael Lorenzen, if they were to trade him, and they've been in trade talks. I mean, they've been in deep talks for Lorenzen for a little bit, which is another sign that they, may be close to a Dylan Cease trade or hoping to trade him soon. We're going to talk about Lorenzen a little bit later in our fourth segment as well. But in the end, I do think he gets traded. I think he gets traded before the opening day, and I think he goes to the Texas Rangers. The Rangers have kind of come out of nowhere, and in my opinion, become the leader of these talks. But as someone put it, I forgot who it was, but it was someone in the Rangers organization, look at our rotation right now. I think that's the reason they want to get Cease. They want to compete. They know they have the roster too, and kind of throwing it away because they have pitching injuries is kind of irresponsible in my opinion. So I definitely look at the Rangers as a team to look for Cease right now. A team that believes they can compete, believes they are Dylan Cease away, and I would frankly agree with them. And I think they have the prospect capital to do it as well. So I definitely look at the Rangers here as a likely fit for Dylan Cease. I think that's where he ends up going. But Yankees, Padres, Reds as well, I think those are all teams that could make a play for Dylan Cease, especially the Padres. But in the end, I think Texas edges them all out, gets Cease, and gets themselves to be a great team again. So that was the end of our first segment here, talking about Dylan Cease. We're going to take a break, but we're going to move on to our second segment after that, which is going to be about Garrett Cole and the update today on his arm and the MRI. So, we're definitely going to talk about that, and we'll talk about it after the break. So we'll see you then. Thanks.